So, like I said, today we are going to be talking about blogging for accountants. I'm going to talk about, some of the benefits of having a blog for your accounting firm, and then I think probably what's going to be most beneficial is we'll sort of just go over the basics of getting your blog set up and how to create that initial blog post. So even if you have been blogging before, or if you've never blogged before, you'll get a little something out of this because we'll sort of just go through all of those basics. I think sometimes blogging at the very beginning can feel a little bit, people can be a little bit nervous to sort of just jump right into it because it looks like a lot, but it's actually pretty simple. And we make it even simpler for you with some of the content that we give you with your Build Your Firm website to post. So I'll show you how to do all of that. So let's just go ahead and get going here. For those of you who don't know me, I am Callie Bransford. I'm the web team manager here at Build Your Firm. Most of the names that I see on today's webinar are pretty familiar to me, so that's great. But for those of you who don't know me, it's nice to sort of chat with you at least this way and connect a little bit more about me as far as blogging goes, just since that's what today's webinar is about. Outside of Build Your Firm, I actually run 2 blogs where I focus on writing valuable content that's search engine optimized. So I really focus on creating content that's going to help drive traffic and increase awareness. I also help coach other bloggers on ways to improve their blogs. So I've worked on pretty much every blog platform there is, and so I really understand the ins and outs of blogging. So I'm really excited about today's webinar to sort of teach some of you that to you guys today, so we can talk a little bit more about the benefits of it and hopefully make it look a little less intimidating so you can sort of jump right into it. So let's jump into what our agenda is going to be today. We're going to go over some of the benefits of blogging, what the benefits are to you as an accounting firm, and why we think accounting firms should consider investing time into developing a blog to have alongside your website. We'll quickly go over what it means to set up a blog and what you would need to do in order to set up a blog. And then we'll hop out of this presentation and I'll walk you through how to craft a blog post, going over some of these like blogging best practices and just sort of make it seem a lot simpler and easier. Because like I said, it really isn't super hard, but sometimes you get in there and there's lots of boxes and there's lots of buttons and people don't always know exactly where they need to go with it. And then we can have a little Q&A session. If you have any questions for me, we can do that at the end. Certainly feel free to put questions that you have at any point during my presentation or during my sort of chatting into the question box. I'll probably save most of them to the end just because it'll be a little bit easier for me to sort of maintain the webinar that way, but put them in at any time that you have them and I'll get to them all at the very end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and just jump into this then and start by talking about some of the benefits of blogging. So blogging in general started probably in the late 1990s, and it was really, when it first started, just this unique way for people to share their ideas and thoughts and opinions. But today, everyone from stay-at-home moms to small local businesses to big-time Fortune 500 companies are taking advantages of blogs. So how did a blog become such a key component to so many businesses' inbound marketing effort? To increase their visibility online, it helps them improve their reputation, develop a following, and generate new business. That's what we are going to dive into right now and go over a little bit of the benefits of having a blog and why you can get benefits of having a blog even just as an accountant. Like I said, everyone from really small businesses to big time businesses use them and get the benefits of them. So let's talk a little bit about what those are. So the first benefit of having a blog that we usually sort of go over, just because here at Build Your Firm, one of the things that we really try to help you with is your search engine optimization. For those of you that don't know, search engine optimization, also called SEO, just has to do with how your website gets shown in the search engines. So Google, the reason that blogs are great for your SEO is because Google's and other search engines really love fresh content. They're rewarding websites and individuals who take the time to provide and write unique content, and they do that by elevating your website's presence in the search engine result pages. They really like blogs because a blog is set up in a really easy to read manner, and it's really easy to index for the search engines because it's got a date stamped and they know how fresh or how old it is. So at the end of the day, having a blog attached to your domain, having it attached to your website is going to help increase your SEO and mean it's going to increase where in the search engine results you are and move you higher and higher up in those results. Not to mention that having a blog means that your posts are just more likely to show up in the search engine results for more variety of search terms, meaning that you're growing just your overall online presence as opposed to just your SEO. When you have a really strong, valuable online presence, it's all about expanding your online footprint. The more places that somebody can find you, the better. Someone might find you organically by searching, maybe CPA in New York, and they might find your website. But they might also find you on Yelp by looking at a review, or they might search, what papers do I need for tax deductions, and then find a blog post that you wrote about it. So overall, what it's doing is it's just helping you grow that online presence and increasing the amount of places that somebody might find you. And you're sort of capitalizing on finding people who maybe aren't searching specifically for your service, but they're searching for the answer to a question that you can help answer. Another thing that a blog is going to do is it really just helps to showcase your expertise on the services that you provide. When you have relevant and valuable blog posts that are relating to the services that you provide, to the services that you provide to your clients, it really just shows prospective clients that you know your stuff, that you're an expert in your field when it comes to accounting and tax services, or maybe you're an accounting niche, you do QuickBooks or you do accounting for restaurants. It's really going to elevate your expertise and really show that you have an expertise in this area. On top of that, it's just going to help you demonstrate the depth of your expertise. You're not just saying that you do it, here's a list of my services, you're really demonstrating that depth. And if you do this really successfully, you eventually can create an identity as a subject matter expert, where prospects are going to know that they can reach out to you when they need help on a specific topic. Just having a website nowadays isn't really always enough to give you that competitive edge that you need. Pretty much everyone at this day and age has at least some type of website. Whether it's a really done website or not, they have some type of website out there. So it's all about thinking about what else can you do to help make yourself stand out. And a blog is a really great addition to your sort of online footprint, like I said, to help you do that. And then going off of that same idea, a blog is just a nice way to let your personality shine, which is just going to help differentiate you from the crowd. It's going to show how you're unique and different. Not to mention, it gives your accounting firm, it gives your brand a little bit of personality. And that makes people feel more comfortable calling your office or choosing to do business with you. Like I said, pretty much everyone out there at least has, some type of website or they have some type of listing online. And so there's a lot of choices. And so anything that you can do to help differentiate yourself, to show your personality, is going to make people trust you a little bit more. They feel a little bit more confident with you. And it just makes them a lot more likely to pick up the phone and call your office or request a consultation from your website or what have you. It gives them that little bit more bit of trust when they kind of get to know you a little bit more. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to having a blog, but in general, at the end of the day, it's definitely going to help increase your SEO. It's going to increase where you show up in the search engines, and it's going to help you sort of gain that competitive edge by showing your personality and position yourself as an expert in your field. So if you don't already have a blog, you might be sort of, totally brand new to this and wondering, how do you even get a blog? For someone who isn't a blogger, it might seem kind of unattainable, something that only techies know how to do. But the truth is, like I said, blogging really isn't all that hard. And there's lots of different platforms that you can use for blogging, but if you ask most of the experts, they're going to tell you that WordPress is the best one to use. A WordPress blog is really user-friendly. It boasts by far the best add-ons, which WordPress calls plugins. Doesn't really matter. But when it comes to creating a good blog post, you want to have want to have WordPress. And not to mention, as far as SEO, WordPress is going to give you the best functionalities. Their functionalities for your SEO is really far superior. So at Build Your Firm, if you have a website with us and you don't have a blog yet, we can go ahead and create and install WordPress blog for you. It's not something that you need to do yourself. So what we would do is just set you up with a WordPress blog. We're going to go ahead and install a template. We're going to brand it for your firm. So you've got your logo up there, and then you basically have everything you need to sort of hit the ground running with your blog. When it's complete, we'll let you know. We'll send you login information so that you can get into your blog and you can start basically crafting your blog posts. So it's not anything that you need to worry about setting up yourself. We install the blog alongside your URL. So it would be, your URL / blog. So it's doing all of that helpful SEO stuff that I was talking about, because it's all associated right with your website. And we obviously would link it right from your website so that people can get back and forth to and from the blog. So it's something we can totally take care of for you. If you don't have one already, you can just let someone here on the staff know, shoot me an email after this, whatever, if you don't already have one. But at this point, I think what I want to do is hop out of the presentation and actually hop into what it looks like when you go to log into your blog for the first time. We can sort of go over, how to navigate it a little bit and how to create that first blog post. So give me 1 second here while I hop out of this and I go into a WordPress dashboard. Okay, so if you've never blogged before, then this might look totally new, or maybe you've seen it a little bit before, but in general, this is just going to be a WordPress dashboard. Like I said, there's lots of stuff on here, but in order to create a post on your blog, you really don't need to know a lot of this. You really just want to go into creating your blog post. So right over from the left navigation, you have all of these choices. There's lots of stuff you can do. Like I said, one of the reasons that WordPress is so great is because if you do want to have a lot of additional add-ons, you certainly can have them. It's all here for you. But you can also keep it simple and just create blog posts, which is what we're going to go over right now. So I'm going to choose posts here. I'm going to go ahead and add a new post. And it's going to bring up what's going to look pretty basic. We're going to give it a title, and then we can go ahead and craft the post as well. So just going over the basics of what this page is. Obviously, we have the option to add a title. We have the editor, which is right here in the middle, which is where we would craft our entire post. And then there's something down underneath here called Headspace and Yoast SEO. I'll go over that really briefly with you guys because I get a lot of questions about it from those of our clients who are currently blogging, so I'll go over that briefly for you. And then along the very right-hand side, you have a few additional pieces that you can use. The first box here would be your publish box. Obviously, this is just where you're going to save your drafts. You can preview your draft, and then you go ahead and publish your draft. A question that I get a lot about publishing drafts is scheduling blog posts to go out in the future. You have this publish immediate option right here, and you can always click to edit this, and you can schedule your blog post to go out at any time in the future. So if you happen to have a free hour or two one day, you could actually come up with a couple of blog posts and go ahead and schedule them out over the next couple of months, so you don't have to be coming in every couple of weeks to write your blog posts, which is actually what I do for a lot of our clients who are part of our Content Marketing in a Box program. I will come in and write a lot of posts and usually schedule them out for a few months. So it's a nice way to sort of save some time. A little bit further down is categories and tags. And I get a lot of questions about these when it comes to creating your blogs. Tags, to be honest, isn't something that I would suggest that you waste a lot of time doing. They're sort of becoming a thing of the past as far as sort of helping your blog. So unless you're using them for your own organizing, it's not really worth your time. But categories is a nice thing to have because it's just like you're taking your articles and you're putting them into different categories, really just for your readers. So you might want to come up with a handful of categories. Maybe you're writing about business taxes, you're going to have one about individual taxes, maybe you'll have a QuickBooks one, and then maybe you do some sort of niche accounting, such as, like I said before, maybe you do restaurant accounting. So you can kind of organize it into a few basic categories, and just makes it a little bit easier for somebody who's reading on your blog to sort of get to where they need to go. But you really don't need to waste a lot of time worrying about these two pieces. It's really just for organization. So it's not something you want to worry too much about getting hung up on. So let's just pop back up here. Let's sort of create a post together, like we're going to make a new post. So obviously the first thing we're going to do is give it a title. And I actually want to show you how you can grab articles from the content library that comes with your website to post into your blog. We have a lot of clients that don't know that this is available to them, so I actually want to show this to you because it's going to make coming up with your blog posts a lot easier. So I'm actually going to just log into a client dashboard here. If you've never been into your client dashboard, it's buildyourfirm.com/resources, and it's basically just the back end of your website where you can get access to all of the tools that come with your website, and where you can get access to the content library, which currently right now is a library of about 400 accounting and tax articles. And we give you the articles to use to send in your newsletter. You can post them out to social media, and we give you what's called the HTML version of those articles, so that you actually can pop them right into a blog, so you don't have to come up with all of the content. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this link right here that says View Content Library. And then I can look at the articles by category. So we have them organized here in 9 different categories. You can always use this search option here if you want to drill down by a specific topic or keyword, but maybe you want to create a blog post right now about something related to individual tax. So I'll come in here to individual tax, and then I'll see all of the articles that are related to individual tax inside the content library. If I wanted to check out this article and read the entire thing before I moved forward with it, this little view button here will take you out to that article on your website so you can read the entire thing. But let's go ahead and pick an article here that looks good. What do you guys think? How about, are your vacation expenses deductible? So we're going to go with this article, and what I'm going to do is choose the final action here. It's the final task, like all the way over to the right, and it's called the HTML. And so I'm going to grab that little icon, I'm going to click it, and what's going to happen is this article is going to open up in the HTML form. So I can go ahead and select it and then copy it. So obviously I can right click and copy, or I can hit Control-C on my keyboard and copy it. And then all I need to do is just go back to my blog post that I had here, and you have 2 options at the top of your blog post editor. So you see them here. You have something called visual and something called text. So the big difference here is that visual is just like if you're going to be typing, it's just going to be like you're typing on Microsoft Word. So maybe I'm going to put a little bit of text in here. I can go ahead and edit it however I want. I'm going to make this bold and maybe make this italicized. The text version, when I click here to pop over to text, it's going to give me that HTML version. So it's just giving me the source code, the HTML version of that blog post. So when I copy it from the content library, it gives me that HTML. So I just want to make sure when I paste it back into my blog post that I'm in that HTML, that text tab. So let's go ahead and pop this in here. And then now if I toggle back over to visual, we'll see that it all came in correctly. It brought in the paragraphs correctly, it brought in the bolding, it brought in the italicized that we need. So I've brought in this article and I already have this content created, so it's not even something I needed to create. And this is actually a pretty short article. Let's pick a little bit of a longer one for today's demo here. Let's see here. This one looks good. How to know which taxes are deductible. We'll choose this one. So I'm just going to replace what we had there. There, now we got a little bit more, and we'll go ahead and give it a title. Great. All right. So now that you've got this content in here, you can certainly just use this content. You could go ahead and publish it out and you'd be done, right? You've got some content out there. It's valuable. It relates to your clients. It relates to the services that you're providing. But you can also add a little bit more to it. You could certainly write a custom intro. A lot of our clients that like to use the content library will create a custom intro, maybe just a quick little paragraph that sort of relates to taxes, knowing which taxes are deductible, and then maybe put something at the end here. We do have a basic call to action at the bottom of this. It says, to learn more about tax rules and regulations, give us a call today. You might want to personalize it and put your phone number in here, maybe put a link to your website. Totally up to you how you want to do it. And of course, if you love to write or you have something you really, are passionate about, you really want to talk about, you don't need to use the articles from the content library at all. You certainly can just write, go away writing your own articles as well. But it's kind of nice to know that the content library is there. You have some articles at your disposal that you can sort of get started with, even if you just use them, just as a very basic bones and you want to add a lot more to it, just as a place to get started. Because sometimes just coming up with the idea, coming up with the topic of the content can be the hardest step. But once you've got your title in here, you've got your text in here, one other thing that you could go ahead and add if you wanted to is an image. And adding images to your post is pretty simple. You're just going to choose the Add Media button, which is kind of right here, right under the title section. And I'm going to click to upload files, so I can upload a file right from my desktop. Hit Select Files here. And I think I saved one here on my desktop for us to use. Let's see here. I think it's this one. Here it is. So we got a nice little tax picture here. We'll go ahead and let it upload. And then once it's completely uploaded, I can just go ahead and insert it into the post. I had a little caption here. I can keep it or remove it. And if I want all of the text to sort of wrap around it, then I can just align this image to the left, or I could align it to the right. You can do whatever you want so that it wraps and you've got all of this sort of text wrapped around the image. But it's pretty simple. You can add multiple images to your picture, multiple images to your blog post, obviously, but it's pretty simple. Once you've uploaded an image, then it will always live there in your media library. You saw when I imported this one, there were tons of images in there, so you can use images, over and over. But it's a nice way to just add a little bit more to your blog post. And the other nice thing about having an image on your blog post is that if you do go to share it out to social media, most social media websites like LinkedIn or Facebook will actually pull in the image from the blog post to post out to the social media. So it just makes the social media post itself stand out a little bit more too. So not only does it just make your blog post stand out a little more, it's going to make the social media post stand out a little bit more too. All right, so let's just scroll down here and very quickly go over these two options that you might see at the bottom of your blog post. It depends when your blog was built. If your blog was built a little while ago, you probably have something in there called Headspace. If you have a newer blog, then you probably have something in there called Yoast SEO. And they essentially do the same thing. They are going to ask you to create what's called your page title and your description. And the page title and description are doing two things. One thing they're doing is just overall giving your blog post a title and a description so that people know and so that the search engines know. So it's just like a really quick, just like you would do a one-sentence synopsis on what an article is about. And it helps users know what this article is going to be about. But most importantly, it lets the search engines right away know what the article is without having to read the entire thing. The other thing that the page title and description does is it's the way that your article is going to get shown on Google when somebody is searching. So if somebody goes to Google, let's go ahead in here and go to Google and maybe types in what tax, what was this article type? Let's just pull in this entire thing here. How to know which taxes are deductible. Somebody comes into Google and types that in. Your page title is going to be this right here. So whatever you define as your page title is how it's going to show up on Google. And whatever you define as your description is what's going to show up right here. If you don't define it, if you don't choose it, Google will just guess and Google will pop something in there for you. But it's kind of nice that you have the option to decide exactly how you want it to look. So you might come in here, we'll use the Yoast one. I'm going to go ahead and edit the snippet. Yoast calls it SEO title and meta description. Just the title and the description. You don't have to worry too much about what they're calling it. And maybe I want to call it how to know which taxes are deductible. And I am a CPA firm in New York City. So I'll put CPA firm, New York City. And then I'm going to pop in the meta description. Usually it'll pull in the first few sentences, but maybe I want something to be a little bit more specific. I want something that's going to entice somebody to click on this article to read it. So I want to pick something that looks a little bit more interesting. So let's see here. We'll grab this bit. We'll pop this in here. And maybe we'll put a question to entice people to click on it. And now you've got a title and a meta description in here. So that's all that it really is. Some people get really hung up on it. It's a nice thing to do to sort of define your article a little bit more, to give it a little more information, especially when somebody's searching in the search engines. But keep in mind, if you skip it, it's totally fine because Google will pull in its own information. It's just that you don't have control over it. So it's a nice step to do, but it's certainly not a 100% required step. So that does it with pretty much the basics of what your blog post editor page looks like. We talked about categories, so you might want to choose a category that this makes sense for. If you had individual tax services or just individual taxes for individuals, you can go ahead and choose that category. You can choose one or multiple categories. Again, the categories are really mostly for yourself and for your readers to sort of drill down and find the articles that make the most sense for them. And then, of course, you can go ahead and hit publish immediately if you want it to go out right now, or you can schedule this out for a day in the future. Come in here, grab a couple from the content library, post a few pictures in here, and you could actually get quite a few months done in less than a month. In less than an hour. You could get quite a few done if you were using all of the articles from the content library. So I would just go ahead and hit publish and this would go out. But that is really the basics of creating a blog post. Like I said, it's really not as intimidating as I think a lot of people originally think that it's going to be, because there is a lot on WordPress when you first get in there. But at the end of the day, it's giving it a title, putting in some valuable content. If you have the time, I always suggest adding a little bit of personalization, even if it's just adding a little personalization about your firm, putting your phone number in there, maybe a sentence or two, making it a little more personal for your clients or the types of clients that you're trying to get, and then publishing it out. And you really don't have to even come up with all of the content if you don't want to, because you have all of those articles at your disposal inside of the content library. So at this point, what I'm going to do is open it up to your questions. I already have seen that there was one that came through already. So we'll go ahead and jump in here to questions that you might have for me. I have my email here up on the screen if you need it, as well as the support email. It's going to get you anybody here at Build Your Firm. If you think of any questions after this, or you don't have a blog yet, you want to sign up for a blog, or you got into your blog and you forgot something or whatever, feel free to let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into these questions because I do see a couple coming through, and feel free to pop any questions that you have into the chat window. I've got plenty of time to answer any of your questions that you have. But the first question I see is a question about how often we suggest posting, which is a question that we get a lot, sort of how frequently do we suggest that you put posts out there? A lot of this is really dependent on, as far as for blogs in general, it's really dependent on your industry and what you're doing. So in some industries, it makes sense to be posting blogs all the time, every single week, every other day. For your industry, we usually suggest something around 1 to 2 times a month is is more than enough. It's enough that you're getting that fresh, relevant content out there. It still looks new and fresh to Google, but it's not so much that you're going to be, losing ideas for content or not being able to come up with ideas for content, or, what should you be writing about? So it tends to be a pretty good medium. So I would say one a month is good. If you're really having a lot of extra time, or maybe during tax season you want to schedule out a few more just to sort of bolster it up, then you could go for 2 a month. But one a month is really a good place to be. I see another question about, I guess it's how do I guess choosing what type of content. The question is sort of how do I come up with my content? So sort of choosing exactly what content to write. And I guess the best way to think about it is to really think about who your audience is. Think about your ideal client, your ideal prospective client, and then think about answering the questions that they might be asking. It's all about having that really valuable relatable content that people are looking for, content that's going to answer, their questions, address their pain points that they might be having. So really think about your ideal client. If you're really trying to get a lot of business clients, then maybe you want to write something about business taxes. Maybe you work in the dental industry, you're a dental accountant, and you know that your clients always feel like they're overspending on their taxes as a dental firm owner. So you want to think about how can you answer their questions? What questions are they wondering? And how can you help answer those questions? And that's really a good place to start at, sort of come up with content that's going to be really valuable for you and for them. But at the same time, it is, like I said, it's about getting your expertise and your personality and your brand out there. So if there's something that's really important to you to write about, then a blog is just a really good place to do that. It's a nice place to let people know a little bit more about your firm, about your firm's personality, about your staff, and that. So, question about how to post out to social media from a blog. So there's a couple of ways to do this, to post out to social media from your blog. The first ways, you obviously can always just grab the URL of your blog, your blog's post. So let me actually just go to one of our clients' websites here, and I'll show you how that looks. So you can always go directly to the blog post. So this blog is how to get your business costs under control today here. And you can always just grab this entire URL right here at the top, and you can paste that into any social media, sharing. If you're posting it out to LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter, you can always just, link right directly to the blog post itself. Some people want to have sharing buttons right on their blog, which I think is probably what this question is referring to. I'm sure you've seen it before. They're usually little buttons that say, they have the icons, click here to share out to Facebook, share out to Twitter. And that's actually a plugin that you can easily install right on WordPress, which is another one of those reasons that we always use WordPress and we build our blogs on WordPress, because there are honestly endless plugins that you can use to customize this basic template that you have. Pretty much anything that you want your blog to be, you can add it. So it's really not restrictive at all. If you want share buttons, there's a plugin for share buttons. So if that's sort of what you're referring to, you can Google, how to add share buttons to my WordPress, or go ahead and shoot me an email. I'm happy to help you, walk you through that, and even install one on your blog for you if you want. But that's why we use WordPress, because you can add in all of those extra features if you want. I see a question about commenting. So how do you add a comment section to your articles? So that's a good question. So a lot of blog posts will have a comment section down below. Typically, when we build your blog, we disable comments. And one of the reasons we disable comments is because the generic comment box that comes with WordPress blogs is like a hacker's paradise. They love to leave, just like random spam messages in there. So we typically disable them. If you wanted to have a comment section, we could either enable that, something I can either do for you if you have one of our blogs, or you can Google it. That's the other reason. Having WordPress is really great because you can Google how to do blank on WordPress for pretty much any issue. But we could go ahead and enable your comment section, and then what I would suggest is we just install another one of those plugins. There's a plugin that sort of helps to weed out those spam comments. But there's also additional comment sections. You can actually add a Facebook comment section at the bottom where people can leave comments just by being logged into their Facebook page, which you've maybe seen before. There's all sorts of comment options. So that's what I would suggest that you go for, is for one of those comment plugins. Feel free to shoot me an email if you want to sort of chat about which one's best. But when you do get your blog with us, your comments will be disabled, just because, like I said, in general, we disable them on standard because it's just a place where people love to leave spam comments, and most people don't want to have to go in and be deleting all of their spam comments and just looking for the good ones. But certainly an option. There's lots of options for commenting that you can do while still avoiding those spam people. Question about, let me see this here. How does the blog integrate with your website? So like I said, when we build your blog for you, it actually gets installed, like in the back end. It's getting installed on the same server as your URL. So it's actually getting installed right along your domain. So your blog is going to have a piece of the URL that's the same as it's not taking people off to another domain is what I mean. Sometimes people get a separate blog on maybe a Blogspot, which is fine, but then it's not associated with your domain. So you're not getting that SEO benefit. So we actually install it right on your domain, and we would link it right from your website. So it would be something like, cpafirm.com/blog, and then we'd have a link right on your website for people to get there. So that's kind of how that works. Just makes it all nice and easy and cohesive. It's all in one place, and like I said, it's all in the same domain. So you're helping sort of elevate your domain's, what they call domain authority, and helping your overall SEO as well. So. All right, I think that does it with the questions, which is good. We just about where I wanted to be with today's webinar as far as timing. If you think of any questions after this, you want to move forward with getting a blog, that's great. We're happy to help you. It's a great way to really, like I said, it's a great way to just grow your overall online footprint, really gain a competitive edge with your firm. And with the content library, it really doesn't take a ton of time on your end to get some blog posts going out, even if you're only doing one, every 6 weeks or so. But you have my email here if you have any questions afterwards. Feel free to let me know. I will also send you guys a recording of today's webinar when this is done, so that you have a copy of it. But I really appreciate you guys taking the time to join me for today's webinar. Hope you learned a little bit more about blogging. I enjoyed chatting with you guys about it, and I will talk to you guys all a little bit later.